Dr. Sage here. In today's video, we're going to have an introduction to the Archaea. By the end of this video, you should be able to list some differences between Archaea and bacteria. The Archaea are more closely related to the domain Eukarya than to the domain bacteria. You can see that in this representative phylogenetic tree of life, where you have the bacteria splitting off separately from the Archaea and the Eukarya. Now, how do we know the Archaea are more closely related to the eukaryotes than the bacteria? Well, the Eukarya and the Archaea share ribosomal RNA sequences that are not found in bacteria, and the protein synthesis and ribosomal subunit structures are very similar between Archaea and bacteria. But Archaea are different from other cell types, both bacteria and Eukarya. They contain certain genetic sequences that are only found in their ribosomal RNA. They have a unique method of DNA compaction. They have unique membrane lipids, cell wall composition, and pillin proteins. So if we look at a comparison of the three domains of life, bacteria, Archaea, and Eukarya, we can see some traits and how they're similar between the different domains. For example, bacteria and Archaea have circular chromosomes and usually a single chromosome, whereas Eukarya have long linear chromosomes and many of them. The ribosomes in the Eukarya and the Archaea have structures that are very similar to each other, even though by their sedimentation weight, they're similar in bacteria and Archaea. The protein synthesis is similar between Archaea and Eukarya, and both Archaea and Eukarya have presence of peptidoglycan in their cell wall. However, Eukarya have sterols in their membranes, whereas Archaea and most bacteria do not. Archaea are the most primitive of all life forms. They are most closely related to cells that originated 4 billion years ago. They live in habitats that are similar to the extreme conditions found on the ancient Earth, such as high heat, salt, acidic conditions, pH conditions, pressure, and atmospheric conditions. The Archaea are often methane producers, hyperthermophiles, extreme halophiles, and sulfur reducers. So what do we mean by methanogen? Methanogens convert carbon dioxide and hydrogen gas into methane gas. They're common inhabitants of anaerobic swamp mud, bottom sediments of lakes and oceans, and digestive systems of animals. This gas produced in swamps may become a source of fuel, but it also may contribute to greenhouse gases and global warming. Archaea can be extreme halophiles. What does that mean? It means they actually require high salt concentrations in order to grow. Some can multiply in 36% sodium chloride or table salt conditions that would destroy most cells. They exist in inland seas, salt lakes, salt mines, and in salted fish. They use a red pigment to synthesize ATP in the presence of light. Here's an example of halobacteria growing in these salt ponds, giving them their distinct red or purple color. Archaea can be psychrophiles or hyperthermophiles. So a psychrophile means that they grow at very low temperature. A hyperthermophile will be the exact opposite. They grow at very high temperatures. Hyperthermophiles flourish at temperatures between 80 degrees and 113 degrees Celsius or 176 to 235 Fahrenheit, and they cannot grow below 50 degrees Celsius or 122 degrees Fahrenheit. They live in volcanic waters and soils in submarine vents, or in hot springs that you can see in this picture here. And they are often salt and acid tolerant as well as being heat tolerant. Well, that was your very brief introduction to the Archaea. Until next time, this has been Dr. Sage.